You don't reply that fast because it matters. You reply because being seen online and not responding makes you look like you don't care. And once people can see you, not answering stops looking neutral. It starts looking like a choice. That's the part no one says out loud. The message usually isn't the pressure. The visibility is. There's a small green dot next to your name. Slack, Teams, whatever your company uses. It looks harmless, helpful even, but once people can see when you're there, they start building expectations around your presence. Not slow enough to notice, just fast enough to become normal. At first, it really was useful. Quick replies, less waiting, easier coordination. You could see who was around, who might answer, who could move things forward. It made work smoother. Then, it stopped being a tool and started feeling like a test. Now, if someone messages you and you're online and you don't reply, there's a gap. And that gap doesn't feel neutral. It feels social, like they can see you choosing not to answer. Even if you're thinking, even if you're working, even if it's been less than 3 minutes. So you reply, not because the message deserves it, because the silence starts to look personal. You felt this before. You open Slack. A message appears, you barely read it. You just send something back. Got it. On it. 1 sec. Not an answer. A signal. Proof that you're there. Proof that you're responsive. Proof that you still care. That's the shift. You're not just communicating. You're managing what your delay means. And once you do that enough times, people start to expect it. No one announces it. No one writes it down. But they notice. They see the green dot. They see the typing bubble. They see the read receipt. They see the space where your answer should be. And over time, responsiveness stops being something you do. It becomes part of your character. Reliable, available, easy to reach, easy to count on. Then you start apologizing for delays that didn't used to be delays. Sorry, just saw this. Sorry for the late reply. Late meaning what? 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. That used to be normal. Now it feels slightly rude, slightly off. Like you failed a small social test no one admitted was happening. Because your availability is visible now. And once something becomes visible, it becomes measurable. Once it becomes measurable, it becomes interpretable. People don't just see that you replied. They see when. They see how long it took. They see if you were active while they waited. That's where the pressure comes from. Not urgency, interpretation. Your calendar fills up, back-to-back meetings, shared schedules, scheduling links that let people step directly into your day. Everything gets optimized for access, not access to your work. Access to you, so you stay green. You keep your status active. You avoid going idle. You move the mouse. You respond faster than you need to, even when you're tired, even when you're trying to focus, even when you're technically off. Because away doesn't feel neutral anymore. It feels like a signal, like you're disengaged, detached, maybe difficult. So you adjust, you check in more, you respond faster. You become easier to interrupt, and little by little your day stops forming around focus and starts forming around not looking absent. That's a different life. You start working with one ear open. Part of your attention is always waiting, watching, anticipating the next ping, even when nothing is happening. Here's the part that should bother you. Most of the time, nothing actually happens if you don't reply immediately. The project doesn't collapse. The client doesn't vanish. The company keeps moving. In most cases, the delay changes almost nothing. But inside your body, it doesn't feel small. You still feel that little spike, that tension, that sense that something is now unfinished, because someone can see that you saw it. And that's the shift people miss. The real pressure isn't that someone needs you. It's that your non-response is visible enough to become a statement. You're not just delaying a message, you're sending one, and it sounds like, I saw you, and I chose not to answer. That's why it hits harder than it should. Here's the part that turns it. The system never needed you to reply fast. It just needed you to feel guilty when you didn't, that's it. Not replying stops feeling inefficient. It starts feeling impolite, then selfish, then a little cold. Even when nobody said that, even when the other person probably wasn't thinking about it that much, you still feel it. Because once a system makes your responsiveness public, You start managing your image through speed. You didn't choose that standard. You absorbed it, and now it runs quietly in the background. I've seen it happen in small ways. You're finally focused. Actually focused. You're in the rare part of the day where your mind is steady and the noise has dropped off. Then a notification appears. You see it, you wait. You tell yourself you'll answer later. You even mean it. Then you picture the other person seeing you online. You picture the unanswered message sitting there. You picture the delay becoming noticeable, and you answer anyway. Not because you changed your mind, because the discomfort of being seen and not responding is stronger than your reason for waiting. That's the moment. Not when the message arrives, when your own priorities lose to the performance of availability. And most people don't notice when that starts happening. They just call it being responsible, being collaborative, being on top of things. But there's a cost. The habit doesn't stay at work. It moves into friendships, into dating, into family group chats, into weekends, into dinner, into the hour that was supposed to belong only to you. Now someone texts you, you see it, you don't answer right away, and the feeling is familiar, not urgency, guilt. Like the silence now says something about how much you care. That's when the system gets bigger than the platform. Responsiveness starts looking like warmth. Delay starts looking like distance, and you start doing the same thing everywhere. Sending quick replies to maintain tone, answering when you're drained so nobody reads it wrong, checking your phone during time that used to feel private, just to keep the signal stable. I'm here, I saw you, I care. That's a lot to keep proving. And the more often you prove it, the more unnatural it feels not to. So your time changes shape, not dramatically, just enough that you stop noticing what's missing. A little less quiet, a little less depth, a little less distance between you and everyone else's access to you. Your time is still technically yours, but it no longer feels protected. It feels shared before you even offer it. That's the strange part. No one has to force this on you. There doesn't need to be a policy, no official rule, no manager saying answer within 5 minutes. The system doesn't need to control you directly. It just needs to make your availability legible. After that, you do the rest. You monitor yourself, correct yourself, speed yourself up, apologize before anyone asks. Because now delay feels like failure, and that should bother you. Because if your character is being measured through response time, your boundaries don't look like boundaries anymore. They look like attitude, like disinterest, like withholding, like lack of care. That's how private time starts disappearing. Not because someone takes it, because every hour that belongs only to you starts feeling like something you need to defend. And eventually, even being alone stops feeling simple. Quiet feels loaded. Silence starts to feel risky. You begin planning around future explanations. If I don't answer now, I'll have to smooth it over later. If I disappear for a few hours, I'll seem off. If I leave this sitting there, it becomes a statement. So, you answer now even when you're tired, even when you resent it a little, even when it cuts into the part of the day that still felt untouched. And that's the real problem. Not that you're reachable. That not being reachable now feels like something you have to justify. And once that happens, you don't need pressure anymore. You'll give up your time on your own. If being available all the time is what proves you care, what part of your life is still allowed to belong only to you?